As you know, Brendan Rodgers recently left Leicester City, and we can reveal the reasons behind that, which we're going to do in this video. We're also going to look at who's in the running to replace the ex-Celtic man in the dugout at the King Power Stadium, and then we'll also be talking about a couple of players who are on the way out the door at Leicester City, as it's all change for the Foxes, and your fans, Leicester fans, will be wondering what on earth is going on at their club as they fight relegation and try to find a new gaffer. Brendan Rodgers left Leicester after winning them the FA Cup, taking them on a European run, getting them into the Champions League positions, and just all round a good job done, most would say, by Brendan Rodgers. And of course in the summer things got really difficult. He did not have any cash to play with. He wasn't able to make signings. The club have failed to secure long-term assets. They've also failed to secure star players in the squad, the likes of James Maddison and Yuri Tielemans, who we're going to get onto towards the end of the video. And in the end, Rodgers had enough, as we can exclusively reveal. Brendan Rodgers actually took a big chunk of his own pay off. He took a big pay cut to leave the club. Obviously, this is a man that was due a decent payout by Leicester City, but the time had come for him to go, and he knew that, and he pushed that through with a mutual agreement, as you would have heard. It wasn't a sacking, it was both parties agreed that it was time for this to happen. And Brendan Rodgers did all he could on his side to make sure that it did. Perhaps he's got a nudge that he's in the running for something elsewhere, maybe ones for Tottenham fans to look out for. Daniel Levy's always been a fan of Brendan Rodgers. He tried to get him previously, and now he's available. He's walked out the door at Leicester. He's managed to navigate himself and move away from that, and he's now employable and doesn't have a big payout, for example. So could be one to watch for Spurs fans. Definitely keep an eye on Brendan Rodgers as that job, as Spurs continue to try and hire for that job, especially the fact that they probably are going to lose Nagelsmann to Chelsea, although Chelsea are also interviewing other candidates for that job. So who will come in and replace Brendan Rodgers? Who's actually in the running? Well, there's certainly a theme, but first of all, let's talk about Rafa Benitez. Obviously, one of the early favourites for the job, wanting to get back into the Premier League. Obviously, the former Newcastle, Everton and Liverpool boss would be a name that everybody knows, and I think maybe Leicester feel like he could come in and they could rely on him to get them results to keep them in the Premier League, a bit like what Everton have done with Dyche, a man that comes in with experience that can manage to navigate them out of the treacherous situation that they currently find themselves in. And we know Rafa Benitez is on the list. We know that he's been considered, and it's not a shoe-in, but he's certainly one of the early favourites for the position. But former Southampton boss Ralph Hasenhuttl is also there, because he's highly admired at Leicester City. I think there's a realisation, or people believe in the game, that he's done a better job with the resources available at Southampton. And you look at what happened to them since they left. They're now absolutely fighting for their lives, on their way down potentially to the Championship after the cataclysmic appointment of Nathan Jones and so on. So Hasenhuttl has a lot of respect there and will be spoken to by Leicester City for sure. He's on the shortlist, along with Leeds former boss Jesse Marsch. Again, the Red Bull kind of links here are what the theme is. And Jesse Marsch, although I think at Leeds it's fair to say Leeds fans weren't quite happy with what they were seeing, there was a lot of criticism over the football. There's still a lot of belief in Jesse Marsch within the game, how he can use young players, how he can motivate, and when his teams click, they really click, as you've seen at his former clubs too. So perhaps the Leeds manager could be on his way back to the Premier League with Leicester City. I don't think he's on the top of the list. I don't think he's one of the favourites at this point in time. But again, another manager that will certainly be approached. Of course, we need to talk about Graham Potter. We do understand that Leicester have had a look at the former Chelsea man, but he has just left Stamford Bridge after what has been a very difficult couple of months for the English talent. I'm sure he'll be back again. I'm sure that he'll be at a big club again, but perhaps wrong place, wrong time with Chelsea. But would he go to Leicester? Well, it's something that is yet to be considered fully by Potter. He's only just left Stamford Bridge, as I said, and even though Leicester are kind of going to sound him out, we think they'll have a look at him. They'll maybe ask him if he would be interested. We're unsure whether he would actually take that or if he's going to have a little breath and a break after what, like I said, has been a very difficult period of time for him at Chelsea. One to watch though, Potter, because there was this kind of hint that perhaps he was going to turn the job down and would be offered. My understanding is not actually directly yet being offered the job, but they're just trying to sound out if he would be interested in a conversation. Also, would he take Leicester, who are currently at the bottom of the league, fighting for their lives in the relegation zone? Would he go from Chelsea to then go to Leicester to perhaps get relegated? That would not be a good year for Graham Potter if that happens. So that is one he will take a long time to consider, and perhaps too long a time for the Leicester board. And let's talk about Oscar Garcia, another name on the list, the final name, who we're going to talk about today, the former Stade Reims manager. He was also at Celta Vigo, worked at Brighton as well. Again, came through that Red Bull connection with Salzburg, and that with a successful period when he was there. There's another manager on the list, probably not as well known, the 49-year-old Spaniard, as Jesse Marsch, as Ralph Hasenhuttl, as Graham Potter, Benitez, but a manager who is known for playing good football. Again, that Red Bull style, can develop young players, has a lot of connections, and that could perhaps be something that Leicester could take advantage of, because we know that they haven't had a lot of room with financial fair play. Therefore, need someone who can come in and help them do what Brighton have done and just find South Americans out of their back pocket every 5 minutes. So that is another option too. Again, not the highest on the list. My understanding is Hasenhuttl and Benitez are currently leading the race, but they will all be spoken to, and Leicester will try to make an appointment that not just kicks them on, but keeps them in the Premier League. But it's a big period of time, this, for Leicester. The opportunity to hire correctly and hire a manager who can bring in talent that will allow that club to be what it has been in previous years, a Champions League chasing, a European achieving club. A team that's won cups like the FA Cup, for example. Instead, they're languishing in the relegation zone. But don't forget, last time Leicester escaped relegation at the end of the season, the next year, they went on to win the Premier League title. And who knows if that could happen again. Will they have a Ranieri 2.0? Very unlikely, but you never know. Dreams do come true, and mad things have happened in football for many teams and many a supporter, so we'll wait and see on that front. But to recap, Brendan Rodgers has left Leicester as quick as he could because we believe there's a nudge at another opportunity. Hasenhuttl, Benitez, Jesse Marsch are some of the names on the list. Potter have a quick return as well after being sacked at Stamford Bridge, and then Maddison and Tielemans are heading for the exit, and Leicester will need to make sure that they recruit well to not just stay in the Premier League, but give a much better account of what's happened this season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.